Former U.S. Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has ignited a firestorm by suggesting that U.S. President Donald Trump has sacrificed strategic relationships with India for the sake of his family's business interests in Pakistan. Sullivan asserted that Pakistan's willingness to do business deals with the Trump family has led the president to throw the India relationship over the side. Now, this claim offers a potential explanation for Trump's sudden shift to an anti-India stance. Seemingly, despite the country's relatively minor trade deficit with the United States, the core of Sullivan's accusation centers on a new financial venture, World Liberty Financial, a crypto platform with significant ties to the Trump family. In fact, public filings show that President Trump and his sons, Donald Jr. and Eric, reportedly hold a substantial stake in it, with the family's overall financial portfolio now heavily weighed towards digital assets over traditional real estate. In a high-profile move, WLFI signed a series of agreements with the newly formed Pakistan Crypto Council. In fact, this partnership, championed by Bilal bin Saqib, the CEO of the Pakistan Crypto Council, has been seen as a clear sign of the growing financial collaboration between the Trump family and Islamabad, reportedly. And this crypto link has coincided with a notable change in U.S. policy. While the Trump administration has historically imposed tariffs on many nations, India has been hit the hardest, facing a punishing 50% tariff on its exports. That is also among the steepest rates against any country. And this is despite India being America's 10th largest trading partner. Meanwhile, Pakistan's tariff rate remains at a comparably low 19%. Trump's critics have publicly questioned his move, arguing that he has squandered a decade of bipartisan effort to strengthen the U.S.-India partnership. Sullivan described the pivot as a huge strategic harm, one that not only damages ties with a key Indo-Pacific ally, but also sends a troubling message to other U.S. friends. And with us on the broadcast this minute is Adel Nazarian, Senior Media Fellow, Gold Institute for International Strategy, live from Washington, D.C. Thanks very much for being here. Now, given Jake Sullivan's claim that President Trump prioritized crypto deals with Pakistan over strategic ties with India, what, according to you, would be the potential long-term implications for U.S. credibility in the Indo-Pacific region?
It's great to be on with you. Thank you for that question. You know, I have to say, if America's foreign policy is seen as being up for sale, then the first casualty is trust. And in Asia, trust is everything. You know, at a structural level, you have to look at it this way, right? The U.S. credibility in the Indo-Pacific, it rests on consistency, predictability, right? And that's why Trump won. And the perception that Washington can be trusted to honor its commitments against Chinese assertiveness, right? What already is happening now with the situation between India and the U.S. regarding the Pakistan, India peace negotiations, India is already questioning U.S. reliability. And if Sullivan's claim sticks, although I believe it's being heavily politicized, in short, New Delhi will hedge harder towards Moscow and Europe. And the Quad itself, honestly, may also lose relevance. Those are the risks, long-term implications. Honestly, what's going to happen then is the balance of power will be, that has been painstakingly worked on to counter Chinese aggression, right? China's rise by the U.S., that credibility could be lost. So I think at the end of the day, this isn't about politics, as Mr. Sullivan is trying to make it, of course. It's about national security. And when personal profit essentially enters the calculus of foreign policy, allies stop seeing you as a leader and start seeing you as a liability. So whether a Democrat or Republican, the principle has to be clear, right? America's foreign policy can't be, turned out to the highest bidder. And I don't think that's what President Trump is doing here. I think that, it's at the end of the day, it's about consistency. So there are implications, but I do not believe that President Trump would sell out America, especially considering his platform, part of it was that he wants to stop America from being sold out by everyone who's come and taken advantage of her for so many years.
Right, that of course is a claim that's been made by Sullivan. Now, let me also ask you if financial entanglements like those alleged with World Liberty Financial are influencing foreign policy decisions at all, if that's happening, what safeguards, according to you, exist to actually prevent a president from putting personal profit ahead of national interest?
So, okay, so, our system relies more on presidential honor than hard law. That's a weakness in the sense that. But if you look at it, the Constitution's emoluments clause, right, that's supposed to block foreign entanglements. Presidents must file financial disclosures. Unlike cabinet members, though, they're not cabinet officials. They aren't, legally required to divest their business. But that said, I think there's been a push to get everyone to invest in crypto. I personally think by 2026, the end of it or so, we're going to see a massive crypto crash. I think Bitcoin has been, the most consistent of all, even though it's being pumped and dumped as well. I was the co-founder and chief executive officer of the American Blockchain Pact, which sought to regulate the economy and the crypto industry and get the 3- and 4-letter agencies to basically create a framework to define them. And that is why we have the Genius Act, that the guaranteeing ethics, neutrality, integrity, and unbiased safeguards act that President Trump introduced and signed into law just 2 months ago. Specifically, the Genius Act is designed to close these very loopholes that we're talking about, right? So it would make basically divestment or blind trust mandatory. So essentially, what we have here is that what President Trump has introduced here would prevent himself, obviously, or anyone from essentially trying to engage with Pakistan for personal gain. This is why it was there to begin with. And honestly, the Genius Act makes it clear no president can put personal profit over America's national security interests, period. So I think that what Mr. Sullivan is missing here, the forest for the trees, is that, of course, this is something that is a little bit, troublesome to from the outset because of Pakistan's ties with radical elements and extremism, which they obviously export along with other allies that are not allied with America. But at the end of the day, America also shares intelligence with Pakistan. And I believe that there's also an attempt to work with South Asia and different countries there in order to elevate them away from the disaster that is occurring for so many years. So I think it's clear, right? The Genius Act, President Trump wouldn't have introduced it, in my opinion, if he was intending to, quote, sell out America's foreign policy and to make sure there were checks and balances in place that even crypto, let's say, advancements with that nation were going to be at to not benefit America in some way, shape, or form in a legal way. Definitely not to sell out India. I can tell you that India is an American friend and ally, and I don't think he would do anything to harm that relationship in this term or long term. And I think he's trying to do whatever he can now to get Prime Minister Narendra Modi back to the table so they could sort things out.
Leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you.
To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.